Well, thank you to Fred and all the band and to Kelly and I'm starting to think I'm going to have to put a piece of black electrical tape over the camera on my computer, because I work on these talks and then you have these songs that just take what I was going to say. So somehow I've got to block you from hacking into my computer 2 weeks in advance of when I actually sit down to write the talk. So, well, we know nothing's impossible, but yeah. Well, happy Thank You Day, and welcome to what will become a new tradition here at Unity Church of Overland Park. This idea of gratitude and consciously moving into a place where we live our lives from a heart filled with gratitude, where we live our lives from a consciousness of a grateful heart. So this is something we're going to do on an ongoing basis. We're going to take time several times throughout the year to just remind ourselves that the best place for us to live in any moment, in any time in our life, is in gratitude. Unity's co-founder, Charles Fillmore, said that gratitude was the great multiplier. He understood the idea that living with the consciousness of a grateful heart was the best thing that we could do to draw our good to us. And it was the best thing we could do to put ourselves into the flow of divine light and divine love and all of the goodness that comes with that. Now, he also understood the power of our words. And he understood that because of that, there's a catch to this idea of gratitude and living with a grateful heart. And that's that when you share gratitude and when you get into that space of being grateful, you have to mean it. You see, I think we've gotten to this place in our society and in our world where this idea of saying thank you, it's become an obligation. It's lost its meaning for us. We've gotten so used to somebody does something nice for you and you say, oh, thank you, that was very sweet. But as a true spiritual practice, as a way of reminding ourselves of the connection to the power, the presence of God that's within us, we've gotten a little bit farther away from that, from allowing that consciousness of a grateful heart to move us into a place where we understand the power of spirit. So there's a couple of things we're going to talk about today, but before we get there, I thought it'd be a great idea to just look at why it is that we want to live from this consciousness of gratitude in the first place. Who is it that we're wanting to be grateful for? You know, I said earlier we get this idea that saying thank you is a part of living in a polite society with other humans. We want to thank them for what they do, and we do, and that's valid, and there's reasons why we want to do that. And in traditional religion, they tell you that you also need to be saying thank you to God, that you need to express your gratitude to God for everything that God has given you, all of the blessings that you have received. You express your gratitude for those. I disagree. You see, the way I view the presence of God is as this universal light, this love, this presence that's within us. Here at Unity Church of Overland Park, we define God as the presence of light and love that's within each and every one of us, this universal presence. And my own personal belief is that presence doesn't really care whether we say thank you to it or not. Meister Eckhart said it this way. When he was asked about sharing gratitude to God, what Meister Eckhart said was, why would I say thank you to God for loving me? That's the nature of God, to love me. That's what God does. So I don't need to say thank you to God for loving me. God is just being God. Now, don't get me wrong. Saying thank you is an important spiritual practice. But it's not something that we're doing because God requires it of us. I mean, I think we all know how other human beings respond if you don't show gratitude back to them. I think we've all experienced that. We've made a mistake and forgotten to say thank you, and we see how they respond. But can you honestly imagine God, we're going to just go all the way there, sitting up on a cloud, looking down, going, look at that ungrateful one right there. Strike that one with lightning. God doesn't work that way. God doesn't work that way at all. We have something that's this almighty being, this all-understanding being. It doesn't care if you say thank you to it at all. The idea of saying thank you is for yourself. It's to raise your own spiritual consciousness. Having a practice of gratitude is for us. It's for our spiritual path. God doesn't require it of you. And once you begin to realize that, once you begin to realize that living in a consciousness of gratitude is less about coming up with the list of all the things that we're grateful for, that it's less of this intellectual exercise of all of the blessings in our lives and more about finding a way to live every moment of every day in the consciousness of a grateful heart. Once you begin to understand that, then that age-old spiritual teaching, the idea that's expressed in some of Paul's letters, the idea that in all things give thanks, this is what God requires, begins to make sense. You see, I used to have a lot of trouble with that phrase, with the idea that in all things we should give thanks. Because I would look at it and I would say, now how can I possibly give thanks for violence? How could I possibly give thanks for poverty or lost jobs or people who are hungry? There is no way I could be thankful for that. This seems like a ridiculous standard that we're being asked to live up to. And the answer is, we shouldn't be thankful for that. We can't be thankful for that, and we're not being asked to be thankful for that. Also, that's not really what the passage says. What the line says is, in all things give thanks. In all things. And so, when you're in that place where stuff is happening around you, when the world seems like it's crumbling, and you're questioning why we live in what appears to be such a violent society, what Paul's reminding us to do is to stay in that place of gratitude in our hearts. Regardless of what's going on around you, in this thing, stay in your consciousness of gratitude. Be grateful. But why? Why? What is it about gratitude that is so powerful that we would be asked to give thanks in all things? You know, I know that I'm not the only one that's hurting this week. I know that there's many of you out there that are hurting. That there's many of you that are looking at the events from this past week. I know there's many of you that have experienced personal events in this past week that you're looking at, and you're going, how can I possibly be grateful? I sat down to work on this on Friday morning as all the news was breaking and went, oh great, I get a right to talk about being thankful. I wasn't feeling very thankful in that moment. And then what I realized was that it's time for us to get out of the stuff that's around us, this lower level of thinking. I looked out my window and there was an eagle circling around. And what I realized was that it's time for us to begin to confront the issues that are facing us like an eagle sees. You see, the eagle doesn't walk down on the ground. The eagle flies up high in the sky, because that gives the eagle the best vision to see what's going on around it. It can see far off, and eagles have amazing eyesight. They can see a mouse moving just very small down on the ground. So it's time for us to get to that place of vision, that place where we can view from on top what's going on around us, that place where we can let go of the negativity, the need to divide us and to blame us and to find who did what and what did who to win and then to punish them for it. And we move to a higher plane of viewing. That plane of viewing where we can see the truth that each and every one of us is connected in the allness of Spirit and the allness of God. That place where we can get up on that mountaintop and be inspired to creativity and to ways of growing together as opposed to ways to continue to divide us. That place where we can grow and see what it is that is ours to do. Because let me be very clear, it is ours to do. It is up to you, it is up to me, it is up to each one of us to take that step up to view from that high place, so that we can be inspired to get those answers that we're seeking. So how do we do that? By taking time to be grateful. This is why gratitude is such an important spiritual practice. Because whatever it is that has taken you out of alignment with God, whatever it is that has caused you to become ungrounded or unfocused or just off flapping around like a balloon in the breeze, when we take the time to live our lives with a grateful heart, it resets and refocuses who and what we are. It reminds us to look from that place up on high, to avoid being drawn into the he said, the she said, to avoid being drawn into all of that negativity, and to understand that creative solutions are possible. It removes us from that place where we want to hear there's nothing we can do about that, and brings us to that place where we're open and listening to the presence of God within us. You see, I hope we're getting the idea that gratitude is about more than thinking about all the ways we've been blessed. Gratitude is about connecting with the presence of God in our heart and feeling that feeling of love and tenderness and thank you. Gratitude is not an intellectual exercise, it's a feeling for us to feel. So we're going to do that right now. We're just going to take an opportunity to just feel gratitude, to just feel grateful, to allow those feelings of gratitude to be in our heart. Now, this is not a time to focus outside of us, to think about, okay, what's around me that I can be grateful for? It's a time to connect with your heart and feel the gratitude in there. This is also not a time to start with the conditions of, well, I'll be grateful when X, Y, or Z happens, because we do that too. Oh, I'll be so much more grateful once I get that new job, or that new relationship or car. This is a time to let go of the qualifications, to let go of the ifs and the whens, and just to feel grateful. So we're going to do that. If you want to close your eyes, you're welcome to close your eyes. You don't have to. But right where you are, just take this moment to connect into your heart and just feel grateful. And so as you start to come back to this place, keep in mind, you don't have to spend a lot of time. You can spend as much time as you want feeling grateful, but this isn't something that takes a 25 to 30 minute time in silent meditation to do. Right where you are, you can just stop and breathe and close your eyes and feel that heart of gratitude within you growing. Plato has a wonderful quote. He He said, a grateful mind is a great mind which attracts to it great things. I'm going to amend it slightly. I'm going to replace mind with heart. Because what I believe is that a grateful heart is a great heart that attracts to it great things. And right now, we need grateful hearts in this world. We need those great things being drawn to us so that we can be drawn to the sort of solutions that we need to find. And it all begins by building that heart of gratitude within you. So there's 2 steps to this process. You see, the best spiritual practices, they always serve 2 purposes. The first purpose is what we just talked about, the idea of building that consciousness of gratitude within you. So the first step in one of these spiritual practices is that they help you on your spiritual journey. They help you in connecting to God in a new and different way and stretching your growth. But the other thing that makes some of the best spiritual practices truly great is that they don't just support us, that they support everyone around us. And so there's a second step to this idea of thank you day and building a consciousness of a grateful heart. And it has to do with those leaves that you were handed when you came in. And if you didn't get a leaf right now, that's okay. Don't worry, there's more downstairs, there's more outside. There's plenty of leaves even outside us here. So, although don't use those because they won't work for what we're going to do. If you've been downstairs already, and I know some of you have been downstairs to Harmony Hall, you've noticed there's a tree now that's down there. This is a beautiful tree. It was made by our YFM director, Kelly Sturgeon. And if you don't know Kelly, she amazes me. You give her some cardboard and some hot glue and a recip saw, and she'd build you the ark in like a week. So, yeah, Brenda, her wife, knows exactly what I'm talking about. So, and I'm sure you're glad to have your garage and your house back from the tree that was constructed in it. So, but thank you, Kelly, for building this tree. This tree is going to be our thank you tree. It's going to live down there for quite a while. You see, it's all well and good for me to say, just be in a space of gratitude. Feel gratitude in your heart, live in that consciousness of gratitude. But what I also know is that we all can't always get there. There are times in our life where it's hard to feel that gratitude, where it's hard to remember that, oh, I do live with a grateful heart. And in those times, that's where we have all of you. That's where we have this spiritual community to remind us that someone is grateful for me. Now, I was looking at a scientific study, and it always amazes me some of the things that science will study. But I found a study that said that people, animals, plants, all of these things respond positively to words of encouragement and praise. Well, that makes sense. We had to study this to know that if you praise something, it likes it. But I'm grateful they did it. Yeah, a few of you got that. So the second part of this spiritual practice is to take the opportunity to say thank you to those people in our community, outside of our community, those people that we know, that we don't know, that have in some way, shape, or form reminded us of the presence of God that's within us. You don't have to know their names. God knows their names. I talked with a gentleman after the first service that just on his leaf wrote all of the faces. He couldn't remember everyone that had blessed him, but he remembered their faces. So what we're going to do is, you have that leaf. You have 2 leaves. You can have as many leaves as you want. To write on it somebody who you're grateful for in your life. Not somebody who you're grateful for having done something for you. It's important to be grateful for that too, but somebody that you're grateful for their presence in your life. And then you're going to go downstairs for the dessert auction. I hear we have a surprise auctioneer, so you're going to want to go down and see who that is. And hang those leaves on that tree that's down there. And when you go down there, don't just hang your leaf on the tree, but look at all the names that other people have been grateful for. allow that gratitude to fan the flames of the grateful heart that's burning within you. Because what we know to be true is that as I share my gratitude with you and you share your gratitude with others, it brings about a greater awareness of the truth of that light that's within you. So take the time to go down and share your gratitudes on our gratitude tree. And this is something we're going to continue on. In the fall, right now, the leaves are green. Sometime in the fall, you'll get red leaves. And we'll hang up red leaves on the tree. And then in the winter, we'll get snowflakes, and we'll hang up snowflakes on the tree. And even though it's an oak tree, and I understand that this isn't really possible, but in the spring, we're going to put flowers on the tree. It'll be a flowering oak tree. We can create whatever we want. So this is something we're going to continue, this opportunity to say thank you, to remind those in our lives that have inspired us that we're grateful for their presence. So let's just recap this thing. This idea of being thankful for the world around us, even in the midst of the crap. And it all begins with realizing that the idea of being grateful, of sharing our gratitude, is not something we're doing because God requires it of us. God doesn't care. You're not going to offend God. God's big enough to handle it. It's something that we do because it raises our own consciousness. I saw somebody once that had written that God created a perfect world. And that world is still perfect. It wasn't God that messed it up, it's us. And by raising our consciousness to that consciousness of gratitude, we do our part to make the changes that we need to make in the world, to fix the problems that we caused in the first place. So it all begins by building your own grateful heart. By taking those moments like we took just a few minutes ago to just sit and feel gratitude. And then to also take the step to inspire that feeling in others. By going down to the thank you tree and before you start bidding on things for the dessert auction, hanging something up on it. By the way, I hear there's amazing homemade ice cream down there that was lovingly blessed by Harper June. So throw all of your money towards the ice cream. The other stuff's good too. But hang that leaf up on the tree. Take the time to look at who other people have been grateful for. And if you don't have time to hang your leaf up today, I'm told there's a tree attendant who will take your leaf and hang it for you. These leaves will be around next week. You don't have to do it right now. But take the time to spread that light and love that saying thank you does. Because that's the best way to make the difference that we need in our world. By raising our consciousness to the place where we can view from on top. And so I hope you'll join me in looking from that higher perspective. Thank you, and God bless you all.